I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, I want to show you a fun little trick that I've stumbled across to give you a super wide lead guitar sound using a wah. And I want to start by demonstrating this over a little Robin Trower style jam track with my Strat. I'm going to be using the FAS Brown amp model on here with my free cab IR. I'm going to have a little bit of the surround delay turned on and some of the large hall reverb. What we're going to hear is a single wah block first. Then we're going to hear this trick, and you'll hear the guitars get a whole lot wider while still maintaining that very expressive wah tone on there. Then I'm going to show you how we can do it. But first, let's make some noise. Make the lead guitar sound wide on there. And before I show you how to set it up, first we need to set up the amp and cab blocks on here. You will need two amp blocks on here. So you need an Axe FX3 or an FM9. I'm using the FAS Brown model on here, and I've set up amp 1 and amp 2 almost identically, except for the input select and balance control. So down here, the input select is right and it's panned 100% or hard right. Then on the top, I've used the left input and I've set the balance to -100 on here. This is how I like to set up dual amp presets. It means if I want to use stereo effects before the amp blocks in there, the stereo image will be maintained. I'm also using a stereo cab. So I've got the same IR. This is my free IR. Again, use whatever IR you like on here. Just pan them hard left and hard right and set the input mode to stereo. There's a bit of the large hall reverb in there and a bit of the new surround delay. So let's hear it with and without the delay. These FAS amps always sound so good, and I feel like they are still underrated given there's so many great amp models. That does the thing I would expect, and it sounds really fat even on the bridge single coil of this Strat. Now, the start of that jam, you just heard a single wah block in here, and I've done the typical things you would do with a wah block. I've got a Fractal EV1 plugged into the pedal 1 slot on my FC controller. I have right-clicked the control parameter over here. I've actually assigned it to external 1, and in the setup menu, I have mapped external 1 and pedal 1 to be the same source on there. So I like having the toe down position as the off value for my auto engage setting over here. You might like it heel down, in which case set it to 5%. I've got the auto engage on the fast speed. This is just where I like it for a wah. Another thing that I like in the wah block is turning the maximum frequency down to around 14 or 1500 hertz over here. Other than that, it's pretty much the stock Crybaby model in there. Again, use whatever wah you like in here. And you know, with the delay, the reverb, and those 2 amps, it's pretty glorious. Onto the trick now. It is ridiculously simple. All we're going to do is move wah 1 so that it is only affecting amp 1 over here. I'm going to hit edit, I'm going to hit copy block, and I'll come down in front of amp 2 and I will paste this block. So I've got wah 2 in front of amp 2. Here's the trick. We're going to go to the control parameter over here, right click it, and we're just going to swap the minimum and the maximum values on wah 2. What this is going to do is as I sweep up on my main wah, it's going to sweep down on wah 2 and vice versa. So if I'm moving it in this direction, you can see this one's going down, but this one's going up. So the wahs are moving in opposite direction. What that's going to do is it's going to affect the frequency response of each amp on there. So they're going to be slightly different, and that is going to make it sound super wide. Let's have a listen. So it sounds super wide without relying on something like a delay, the enhancer, or the pitch block on there. One cool thing about this is because it's all before the amps on there, if we sum this to mono, we're not going to get any weird phasing artifacts. So if I just set up channel B in the cab block exactly the same, but I pan the cabs down the center on there, that's going to give me a mono stereo image, and I can just flip-flop between them. You will just have to compensate for the level in the cab block if you do want to swap between them. But in a situation where you are set up to play stereo, you can use this trick and get an epic lead tone with your wah block on there. I also like that because I play with the wah so much, a lot of the time if I'm playing rhythm guitar, I won't have the wah on. Then when I go to my solo scene, I'm going to be using the wah for some embellishments on there. It's going to make everything super wide. But if I then had to play in mono, I don't need to change anything on there. I can just either use one side of the stereo spectrum and I'll just have a mono wah sound, which still sounds great. Or if I sum them, I'm not going to get any weird phasing issues or anything that sounds super funky on there. And yes, I realize I'm using a stereo and delay and reverb at the end of the chain on here. So that mono demonstration still had stereo effects on it. But the point is, if they were off, the amp sound and the cab sound isn't going to get funky or sound really weird and thin if I sum it to mono. So this is just something that I stumbled across. I think I was like, oh, imagine if you were able to play wah with 2 feet into 2 different amps and you went in different directions. And I thought, you know what? Like so many things, I can do that in the Fractal, but I can make it way easier than having to have 2 expression pedals. I can do it with 1 expression pedal and I can just change the direction. Now, another great way you could use this would be, say, using a phaser or a flanger. You could invert the sweep on them, or you could just use different depth and rate settings on there, and you'd get similar but not identical effect on there. There's just something about using the wah on here to get that super wide sound that I think is very, very cool, and I wanted to share it with all of you. If you've got any tricks like this that you want to share, please let us know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I will see you all on next week's Tuesday Tone Tip. Take it easy.